After the end of the war, more than half of the German population found themselves in undesirable situations and out of their places of origin. This included about 9 million people who had been bombed and evacuated, 14 million refugees and exiles, 10 million freed forced laborers and prisoners, as well as an uncountable number of prisoners of war who were slowly returning. How was this crowd of disheveled, displaced and impoverished people dismantled and reintegrated? And how did the former National Comrades, folks, as German citizens were known during the Nazi regime, gradually resume their lives as ordinary citizens? These are questions that run the risk of being forgotten in the face of the magnitude of historical events. The most significant changes occurred in daily life, such as in food organization, looting, currency exchanges, and shopping. In addition, issues related to love emerged as a period of fleeting sexual relations followed the war. There was great disappointment when the long-awaited husbands did not return home. However, many Germans began to see things differently, longing for a new beginning, which led to a significant increase in divorce rates. Today, we'll take a detailed look at what Germany and its people were like a decade after the end of World War II. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the topic. The collective memory of the post-war period in Germany is marked by some images that left a strong impression in people's minds. The Russian soldier ripping a bicycle from a woman's hands. Sinister black market figures gathering around a few eggs, temporary barracks sheltering refugees and people whose homes had been bombed, and women holding photos of their missing husbands, questioning the returning prisoners of war. These visually powerful images became fixed in the German public memory of the first post-war years, like an unchangeable silent film. Although it is important to note that half of the story ends up in the editing room. While memory usually wraps the past in a softer light as the years go by, the opposite is true for the post-war period in Germany. Over time, it became increasingly somber. One of the reasons for this lies in the widespread need among Germans who were not persecuted by the Nazi regime to see themselves nevertheless as victims. Many people felt that the darker the accounts of the truly dreadful winters of famine in 1946 and 1947, the smaller their guilt would seem. However, if we pay attention, it is also possible to catch glimpses of laughter. A spontaneous Rosenmontage carnival procession passed through a terribly depopulated Cologne as early as 1946. Journalist Margaret Bovary recalled the feeling that life was enormously heightened by the looming proximity of death. During the years when there was nothing to buy, she was so content that she decided not to make major purchases, even when things improved. Misery cannot be understood without the pleasure it provokes. Escaping death led some to apathy, while others developed a passionate love for life. The established order of things had been dismantled, families broken up, connections lost. But people were beginning to reconnect, and the young and spirited viewed the chaos as a playground where they sought out their joy anew every day. The Holocaust had a surprisingly small presence in the consciousness of most Germans in the post-war period. Some acknowledged the crimes that had occurred on the Eastern Front and felt a certain fundamental guilt for having started the war. But many simply could not integrate the mass murder of millions of German and European Jews into their thoughts and emotions. Only a few people, such as philosopher Karl Jaspers, publicly addressed the issue. The Jews were not even explicitly mentioned in the widely discussed guilt declarations of the Protestant and Catholic churches in August 1945. Insidiously, the unimaginable nature of the Holocaust also infiltrated the consciousness of the nation that perpetrated it. The crimes were of such immense magnitude that they were expelled from the collective consciousness, even while they were still happening. The fact that even well-meaning people refused to consider the fate of their deported neighbors severely undermined trust in humanity to this day. And most Germans of the time bore the guilt of this omission. The concealment of extermination camps persisted even after the war's end. Despite the Allies' efforts to forcibly confront the defeated German people with evidence of Nazi crimes, post-war Chancellor Helmut Kohl used the sarcastic phrase "the blessing of late birth" to suggest that the younger generation had no right to feel morally superior to the previous one.